Hi everyone, welcome to Beyond the Evidence. This is the channel where justice matters. My name is Marv. I am a true crime fanatic, and I love to dig deeper into the mysteries of unsolved cases. Join me as we search for missing persons, uncover the clues in unsolved murders, follow along with jury trials, and we'll be a voice for the voiceless. I'll share with you the facts, the theories, the clues, the evidence, and the controversies that surround these cases. This is Beyond the Evidence. Good afternoon. I'm here, and so is Andrea. Let me bring her on. Hello, Andrea.
Hello.
I appreciate you helping me read today.
No biggie.
Okay, we are doing the last testimony that I received. It's the testimony of First Sergeant Christopher Cecil, given at the hearing or motion in limine held August 1st, 2024. I'm going to be Cecil, and Andrea's going to be
everybody else. Okay. Attorney Nicholas McClelland, call Christopher Cecil, please. Witness sworn. Mr. McClelland, thank you, Judge. The court, you may proceed. Questions by Mr. McClelland. Officer, will you state your name, please?
Christopher Cecil.
And could you spell that for the record, please?
CHRISTOPHERCECIL.
And how are you employed?
I'm employed with the Indiana State Police.
And what is your rank currently?
I'm a first sergeant.
So First Sergeant Cecil, how long have you been employed with the Indiana State Police?
Almost 20 years.
And did you go through special training and schooling to be a law enforcement officer?
Yes, I did, sir.
And do you continue to go through yearly training to keep updated on current laws, policy, those kind of things?
Yes, sir.
And what is your current assignment?
So I'm the commander of the Indiana Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force.
And throughout those duties, do you have an occasion to take cellular phones or electronic devices and what we refer to as dump them, which means take the contents off of those devices and examine that information?
Yes.
And is that something that you routinely do?
Not routinely anymore, since I'm the task force commander, but I did prior to that position.
Currently, the first sergeant who is working on the analysis, the new analysis of LG's phone?
That's correct.
But you've done an analysis prior to this one, correct?
Yes.
Tell me about when did you do the prior one?
I did the prior one in 2019.
And that one's complete?
Yes.
You decided to do a new analysis of it. Why?
New tools, and then also technology's changed. So this was done in 2019. We're in 2024. And I know from experience that forensic software updates and gets better and can find things.
But the analysis for 2022, you did draft a report for that analysis. Is that correct?
You mean 2019?
Yes, 2019. Thank you.
Yes.
And that report has been turned over to defense. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so I'm going to focus on that report mainly. Through that report, were you able to determine that there was a video on LG's phone taken on the High Bridge on the day of the murders?
Yes.
And that video is the famous video that we know that has Bridge Guy. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it's also the famous video where Bridge Guy says, down the hill. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so that is the point where AW and LG are abducted from the Monon High Bridge, correct?
My understanding, yes.
What I want to know specifically is what is the time that video was taken?
So referring to my report here.
Let me establish foundation for that.
Go ahead.
What do you have in your hand?
So I have a case report.
And is that the case report one that you drafted?
It's one that I drafted.
And was it drafted after the analysis of LG's phone in 2019?
Yes.
And it is your report?
This is my report.
And you believe it's accurate?
Yes.
And actually it says Defendant's Exhibit 1 at the bottom. Is it something that was admitted in your deposition?
Yes, on May 15th.
And would it help you to refer to this report to refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Judge, I'd ask the court to allow the witness to refer to the report to refresh recollection on the details of the timestamp on the video. The court, you may. First, Sergeant Cecil, can you take a look at that report and tell me the time, if you can find it, when the video started on the Monon High Bridge?
So the video starts on February 13th, 2017 at 14:13:51 or 2:13:51 p.m.
And was there a location or a GPS location associated with that video?
So when the video initially starts, the GPS geolocates kind of over near the Delphi High School, but then within a matter of seconds, it comes back to the Monon Trail. That's where it goes.
And there were pictures on the Monon High Bridge Trail taken before the video. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were able to recover those pictures?
Yes.
And those pictures have GPS coordinates with them. Is that correct?
The pictures don't, but there are when Snapchat's being used, there are GPS locations when Snapchat's being used.
And so there are pictures taken throughout Snapchat, and you're able to get a GPS location through Snapchat of those pictures?
Yes.
And they show that the pictures were taken on the Monon High Bridge as well?
Yes.
And you were able to examine the pictures in the video. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in both the picture and the video, does it portray or does it show AW?
Yes.
And is she wearing the same clothing?
Yes.
And so you're confident the video is taken at the same location and time as the picture prior to it?
Yes.
And again, give me the time of that video.
So the time of the video, it starts at 2:13:51 p.m. on February 13th.
And when does it end?
It ends 43 seconds later at 2:14:34 or 14:14:34.
And then you're able to track movement on the phone after that. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that is through the internal functioning or the internal GPS of the phone?
Well, it has to do with the Apple Health data.
And you're able to track, so you're able to track movement of that phone?
Right. I'm not tracking GPS. I don't know where the phone went. I'm tracking.
Just movement?
Yes.
And at some point, does the phone stop moving?
Yes.
When is that?
So the phone stops moving same date, February 13th, 2017 at 14:32:39.
So 2:32 p.m.
Correct.
And through your analysis, have you been able to tell, did the phone move after that time?
No, it did not.
And do you know how long did the phone stay on?
My understanding from my examination, I'm currently still in the process on, it stayed on until sometime after 4:30 in the morning on February 14th.
And so from 2:32 p.m. until 4:30 a.m. on February the 14th, the phone never moved?
Correct.
And do you know where the phone was ultimately found?
My understanding, it was found underneath one of the girls.
Okay, just a moment, Judge. The court, yes. Mr. McClellan. Judge, I don't have any other questions. The court, all right. Miss Ajou, Attorney Jennifer Ajou. Thank you, Your Honor. Cross-examination of First Sergeant Christopher Cecil. Questions by Ms. Ajou.
I think it's Ajay, but...
Ajay, whatever.
Okay.
Now, First Sergeant Cecil, how do I refer to you?
You can call me First Sergeant Cecil.
First Sergeant Cecil, now, you said earlier the girls were abducted at 2:14 on February the 13th of 2017, correct?
I didn't say they were abducted. I just said this is the video happened.
You have no idea if the girls met someone they knew or what happened at 2:14 when the video ended, correct?
I only know what's on the phone.
Sure. So you can't say that they were or were not abducted.
I can't say anything. You're right.
Now, the ability to track movement on the phone, you said, came from Apple Health data.
Yes, ma'am.
In the Apple Health data, does it show LG's phone leaving from LG's home to the, do you have a map? Okay, did Apple Health show LG's phone moving from her home over to the location where they got out of the car and walked onto the Monon High Bridge?
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
Well, you said that the cell phone tracks movement, correct?
Correct?
And it shows movement when people walk.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily show movement if you're in a vehicle traveling down the road, correct?
The only way it could is if for some reason it would detect a movement as if like you went over a bump. Right.
So it doesn't show any movement of LG's phone leaving from her home to the trail that day when they were in the vehicle, correct?
And you're referring to the Apple Health data, correct?
Yes.
No, it doesn't.
Pardon?
It does not. The Apple Health data does not.
Okay, because it doesn't necessarily pick up if you're in the car unless something kind of significant happens. Is that right?
Right, like if you hit a bump or something, yes.
Are you familiar with the area around the south end of the Monon High Bridge?
No, ma'am. I've never been there. I only know what I've seen on the news reports.
Are you aware that between the south end of the Monon High Bridge and the location where the bodies were found, there is an access road?
I did not know that.
In the Apple Health data, the number of steps and the distance could have gotten those girls to somewhere on that access road. Is that correct?
Not necessarily.
But it's not wrong. It's not right. You just don't know.
Correct. You're right. I don't know.
It's a possibility.
Possibility.
Now, would you agree with me, Sergeant Cecil, that different information is transmitted to an iPhone by different measures? Does that make sense?
No, ma'am. I'm sorry. It doesn't.
Your Honor, I was told that Mr. Cecil, that he was going to be dismissed. Can I have a minute to find an exhibit that we had put away? The court. Sure. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm sorry. My exhibits were put away, so it's a little inaudible. First Sergeant Cecil, I'm going to show you what I've marked as Exhibit QQQ, which is the hand-drawn map of the areas where the bodies were found. And if you see this area right here,
Yes, ma'am.
and we can highlight that, is an access road. And would the Apple Health data get the girls somewhere on that access road? Do you know?
Like on a specific point? Are you asking me like a GPS point?
Any point. If they walked this distance and this many steps, they could have ended up on this access road, correct?
So Apple Health data doesn't track GPS.
No, it doesn't. I'm not asking you for a location. I'm saying if we start the number of steps that you measured,
Mm-hmm.
have you measured any of those steps?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know I don't know which girl could have been carrying the phone because,
Sure.
as I mentioned in my deposition, if you're carrying my phone and then you give it to me, you may walk different steps than I do because I may be a little bit taller than you and have a different stride than what you have, than what you would have.
Sure. And the steps are more accurate than the actual distance that the iPhone reports. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure. I've got that written down in my notes, but I can't recollect that right now off the top of my head.
Okay.
Ms. Auger,
Ajay, yes.
I apologize.
No, you're fine. It's a tough one.
To answer your question, from my research preparing for this other examination, both of them are going to be correct. According to research that's been done by other police officers who've wrote a white paper on this.
Okay, so the distance will be as accurate as the number of steps.
From this research that's been done by another law enforcement officer out of Europe, because I have the paper, it's part of my research that I've done for this examination.
And just to be clear, your testimony is that the distance traveled would be as accurate as the number of steps?
I'm just telling you what I've learned. I'm not saying that I know that for a fact. I do not know that for a fact.
And would you agree with me, hearkening back to your testimony 2 minutes prior, if one individual has a different stride,
correct,
than the other, then this number of steps will be different than the amount, the distance traveled?
Correct.
Now, your grade key report that you did in 2019, or your report that you did in 2019, do you recall that?
You mean my written report?
Your written report.
Okay.
It was admitted as an exhibit. It's labeled Defendants 1. But I don't, Your Honor, do you have the exhibit? The court, no. Ms. Ajou, the gray key report. The court, no. Ms. Ajou, no. Mr. McClellan, it was not admitted as an exhibit. Ms. Ajay, oh, okay. The court, I don't have it. First Sergeant Cecil, I'm going to show you what has been marked as defendants RRR.
Okay.
What is that? Let
me look through it here. So this is my written report, my digital forensic report that I wrote back in 2019.
And you paid a lot of attention to that, given the fact that this is a double homicide, right?
Yes.
I'm sure you give attention to everything you do.
Yes.
And if you could, please look at page 10, the last line.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I want to back up to the middle of the page first. There is, in all caps, it says LG. There's a little notation there. I don't know what is 38A158. You see that?
Yeah, the LG title 38A. Yes, ma'am.
Title, thank you. And what do you note there?
It's a picture of the Monon High Bridge, and it's a picture that was uploaded to Snapchat. And the picture is just like somebody would be standing in front, like you're getting ready to walk across it.
I'm going to show you what's marked as Defendant's Exhibit. Well, sorry, Defendant's Exhibit SSS.
Okay.
Is that the photo you're referring to?
It's not this exact one, because this has got it's got that written up there on it.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Is there a phone or a picture that you have learned of that you could not find on LG's phone?
Yes.
What was that?
That was a picture of AW walking across the bridge, and it's kind of taken off of an angle.
And that was posted on her Snapchat account?
So my understanding from social media is that what it was, and I was asked to try to see if I could find that by the investigators.
And you could not find that?
I could not find it.
Now, if we go back to page 10 at the last line of your report.
Yes.
What did you say?
So on the last line, on February 13th, 2017, at 22:32:26, I wrote, last recorded data received by iPhone. The iPhone battery was likely depleted.
And what was the last data you mean was received?
I'm looking at the data for that day, and this, as I testified in my deposition, this was a mistake. I made a mistake. I didn't calculate other things. I wasn't looking into February 14th.
But even if we don't look, so what you're saying now today, when you said May 15th, is that you don't believe the phone's battery was likely depleted?
Right.
But did you also make a mistake when you said last recorded data received by iPhone?
Yes, I did.
When you said that, what data were you referring to?
If you look on the next page right here, where I talk about, it says, after the phone, it stopped recording. Excuse me. Yeah. It continued to function, meaning it's still powered on. I found no evidence the user physically interacted with the phone. The phone continued to receive messages, SMS messages, FaceTime calls, mobile calls, and other similar communication. In addition, several applications updated in the background. The activity continued until the phone battery was depleted. That's what I put in there. That's what I was referring to.
And were you referring to a particular piece of data that you believe the phone received at 22:32:26?
I do not remember. I don't know.
Would you agree with me that an iPhone receives data in different ways or messages in different ways?
That's a very broad, you're going to have to narrow it down.
Well, so if an iPhone receives an SMS message,
right?
That is a short message service. Do you agree?
Yes.
And that's transmitted by a cell tower. Is that right?
I don't know a whole lot about cell towers, how that is coming there.
Okay,
because it could be.
You testified to that in your deposition.
So it could come from a cell phone tower. It could come from Wi-Fi. There's other things it could come from.
How does an iMessage get to a phone?
It could come from over the cellular NE, or it could come from the internet. So if you're connected to Wi-Fi, if you don't have cell phone service, if you're on Wi-Fi, you can get an iMessage.
Is it your belief that LG's phone was connected to Wi-Fi between 5:44 p.m. on February the 13th and 4:33 a.m. on February the 14th?
No.
And if it's not connected to Wi-Fi, the only way it can receive an SMS message is through a cell tower, correct?
Yes.
And do you agree with me if LG's cell phone received 0 SMS messages between 4:06 p.m. on February the 13th and 4:33 a.m. on February the 14th, 2017?
I would have to look at that. I can't.
We talked about that in your deposition.
Right, but.
Recall that?
I vaguely recall it.
What? Yeah. What do you need to look at?
I can pull up my computer and.
Okay.
Look if the judge is okay with that.
The court. That's fine.
It may take a bit for me to pull up the report, but yes.
Sergeant Cecil, do you have
I'm sorry, which?
The copies of your report.
Do you want your RRRR back?
Yes, while we're waiting on you.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd go ahead and admit defendant's exhibit RRR, which is his 2019 report. The court. Any objection? Mr. McClellan? No, Your Honor. The court. All right. Without objection, RRR is admitted. Miss Ajou, thank you. Okay, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. I have my computer up right now.
And can you tell me how many SMS messages did the phone receive between 4:06 p.m. on February the 13th and 4:33 a.m. on February the 14th of 2017?
So 4:33 and 4. I'm sorry.
Attorney James Luttrell. What was the first time? 4:06 p.m.
4:06
on the 13th.
And 4:33. And you said 4:06 to 4:33?
Yes.
So there's nothing at 4:06. But at 4:33:31, from what Magnet is showing, that there is a SMS message or 9 messages as it's referring to. And then this is it's not the same one. There's 2 of the same ones here. There's another one at 4:33:36. There's one at 4:33:37, 4:33:38, 4:33:39, 4:33:40. There's multiple SMS messages at 4:33, but at different seconds throughout, throughout that minute.
Sure.
That's what you're asking?
There's 15 of them, isn't there?
Some of these may be duplicate because it's showing, it'll show up as an iMessage, and it may also show up as an SMS. So it might be the same person.
There's the messages on your report that are marked SMS.
Mm-hmm.
And how many of them are there at 4:33?
So
AM on 2:14 and 17.
Are you counting the duplicates?
Are there notes on 2:13 that show up as an SMS message?
2:13 or 2:14? I'm sorry. You're confusing me, ma'am.
Did I say 2:13?
Yes, ma'am.
I meant 2:14. I'll tell you what. Let me do this. I'm going to show you Defendant's Exhibit TTT.
Okay.
Does that help you? That is from the Cellbrite extraction.
Whose Celebrate extraction is this one? Is this mine or Brian Bruner's?
That is 2017.
Okay. I'm not going to be familiar with this.
If it doesn't help you, we can. That's fine.
I can look at it, but I'm just saying I'm not familiar. I won't be familiar with this. I'll compare it.
Mr. McClelland, Judge, if it helps things, the state's willing to concede that there were messages that came in at 4:33 a.m. on February the 14th, and the court can consider that. If that helps move things along, I'm satisfied with that, Judge. I don't know that the specific number matters, but the state's willing to agree that messages came in at 4:33 a.m. on February the 14th. Miss Agiu, I think the number's important, Your Honor. The court, okay. Miss Ajay, I'm sorry. So I'm looking, oh, nope, that's you.
So I'm looking at this with Magnet, okay? And then there's one call that Magnet has not parsed. I'm not looking at it with Celebrate.
Okay.
And I can show you which one that is.
Which one is it?
It's number 3 when it says, I think it says Becky Patty Marchin. For some reason, the entry is not here. Again, this is the reason why you got to use multiple forensic tools, because to put everything together, I've only got one of them open right now. Celebrate takes a little bit to load on my computer. Magnet's pretty fast. So I'm trying to be efficient here for the court, but these other ones are fine. We're here.
And does that perhaps, so if we look at Defendant's Exhibit TTT,
yes,
that shows 15 SMS messages on LG's phone, but you're saying you think that number 3 didn't go through for some reason. And in fact, that box is blank. And it says, what does it say there? Unknown?
So what I'm saying is Celebrate may have parsed it. Because again, you're going off something that I didn't do. But actually, when I'm looking at it with a completely different, separate tool, it's not showing it here. So I would have to pull up Celebrate and compare it and see if Celebrate parsed it.
How about this? Can we agree, First Sergeant Cecil, that LG's phone received at least 14 SMS messages at 4:33 a.m. on 2/14/2017?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And you agree with all of the 4:33 SMS messages at the top of the page, other than perhaps line number 3?
What are you asking when I say I agree?
You agree that LG's phone received all of the text messages that this document shows, other than on 2/14/2017, other than perhaps the one on line number 3.
Yeah, number 3 I would have to do more analysis. But yeah, I would. That's what the software is showing.
Thank you. Now, what was the last SMS message received by LG's cell phone on February the 13th, 2017?
From what Magnet is showing here is that on February 13th, 2017 at 22:48:22 or 10:48:22 p.m. was the last SMS message.
Would you agree with me that the defendant's exhibit TTT does not show that SMS message?
It's only one page, so I mean, it would.
Those are in, well, would you agree with me, sir, that those are in chronological order?
They're in reverse chronological order, but.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And if you look at TTT, what is the time of the last SMS message to the phone?
Here it shows here it shows it's actually February 13th, 2017 at 4:47:33 p.m.
Thank you. Move to admit exhibit TTT. Mr. McClelland, no objection. The court, all right. Without objection, TTT's admitted. Thank you. So your data is even different than Brian Bunner's data from 2017. Is that right?
Yes, but I know why.
Why?
Because Brian Bunner, after he did his exam several days later or weeks later, he connected to the network to do an iCloud dump of LG's phone, which would have automatically brought some of this data there. This is the reason why this is here.
Now, you have different software that analyzes this data, right?
Yes.
And let's go back to the SMS messages. Those are timestamped by the phone as of the time they are received by the phone, correct?
What Magnet and Celebrate are doing is they're pulling as, if you look right here.
So that's not my question.
It's pulling it as it's how it's sent.
Not my question.
Okay.
Okay. When an SMS message appears on a cell phone, it appears timestamped as of the time it's received by the cell phone, correct?
No. I just had my phone in airplane mode and received a text message, and it was sent. I received it when I opened it up. It showed me when my daughter sent it to me.
An SMS message?
iMessage.
Those are different, right?
Same thing.
No. Okay. An iMessage is timestamped as of the time it's sent, correct? It goes through the Apple server, goes through the internet, and those are timestamped as of the time they are sent, correct?
When they're sent from, if you're texting me and you're sending me a text, yes. When you're sending it to me.
And I want to be clear, because there are a lot of different things that people talk about as text messages. So you got SMS messages,
right,
that you earlier testified are transmitted through the tower if LG's phone is not connected to Wi-Fi, correct?
Right.
Then you have iMessages, chats, Facebook. Those are all transmitted through a server, correct?
They can come through the tower because you're on the internet.
Mr. McClelland, Judge, can I object at this point? And I guess, can Ms. Auger give me an offer of proof or show me how this is relevant to whether or not a third party can be talked about at the trial? The state called him just to establish the time of the video to cover the alibi of Mr. Holder and the other people that they want to name as a third party. When you receive a text message, I guess I don't see the relevance, Judge. Ms. Auger, Your Honor, the relevance is, and I think that Mr. First Sergeant's gonna get there, it's in his deposition if we need it. An SMS message is timestamped as of the time it's received by the phone, and an iMessage, a chat, is timestamped as of the time it's sent by the other phone. And so the relevance is, even though people were sending LG text SMS messages, she did not receive those until 4:33 in the morning, meaning her phone is not connected to a tower between 5:44 and 4 on the 13th. And then it's suddenly connected at 4:33 a.m. on the 14th.
I would agree with that.
And so the relevance is okay.
I would agree with that, yes.
Oh, thank you. And so the relevance is something changed at 4:33 in the morning to make that cell phone the court. Well, why don't you get to that specific point then? Well, I'm sorry, the court. You're dancing around the field here because I'm wondering as well, what does this have to do with the third-party perpetrators that you are alleging? Okay, well, earlier I believe it was Jerry Holman testified that they have no evidence that Mr. Allen went back to the crime scene after maybe 3:30. And that phone, it was under LG's shoe, under AW's body, according to the state. Didn't move after 3:30. The court. Okay. And our point is that something changed at 4:33 in the morning, that it's suddenly connected to the tower. The court. And this witness can answer that for you. He just did. The court. Okay, then move on. Thank you. First Sergeant Cecil, in 2019, when you first conducted your examination of the phone, what did you know about the crime?
I knew two girls from Delphi had went out on the trail, went for a walk, and then there was a video. Apparently it was recorded of what was believed to be the last person that saw them. And then eventually later on, they were found murdered. What I know about it was from what I read on the news, because I was never given access to the report, never read the police report.
Did you have an understanding of the relevant time frame that you were to review your examination?
Yes, I was there to look to see if there was anything that would help identify like why they were out there on the trail, if they were meeting someone, anything like that.
So is it then fair to say you were only looking at data prior to 2:14 p.m. on February the 13th of 2017?
Prior to 2:14, yes.
Now, can you tell the court about Knowledge C, the database?
So, Your Honor, Knowledge C is a data.
Mr. McClellan, Judge, I'm going to object again. I'm not sure what she can make an offer to prove. I don't see what the relevance is of talking about Knowledge C in terms of third-party perpetrators. Ms. Auger, Your Honor, we'll withdraw it. I think we have what we need. The court. Okay. And I'll just let Mr. Baldwin make his argument and save the rest for trial. The court. Okay. Ms. Auger, thank you. The court. Any redirect, Mr. McClellan? Mr. McClellan. No, Your Honor. Thank you. The court. Thank you, First Sergeant. You may step down. This concludes the testimony of First Sergeant Christopher Cecil given at a hearing on motion in Lamine conducted August 1st, 2024 in this cause.
And then we just have the certificate of a reporter. All right. So that was all about, I guess I don't see the relevance in all that information that she asked him about the times.
Well, I think what she was trying to get at was, did they actually come in the times that they hit the phone, or did they come in at 4:33 when the phone got moved and was able to get
connected?
Yeah, right. And she's trying to see or to find out if when you send that message, does it say on the phone what time you sent it or what time you received it?
Right.
Now, on my phone, on an Android, if someone sends me a text message, it'll say across the top what time they sent it.
Yes, Crime Jester. What they're saying is the phone was never turned off. It stayed on until 4:33 a.m. when all those messages came through, and then it died. And it never moved.
But from 4:06, is that what she was saying?
Yeah.
To 4:33 or 5 or till 4:33, it never got any messages.
Right. So where the phone laid in the shoe underneath the body, it did not connect to any towers or Wi-Fi. So it never moved. It never received any messages whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, at 4:33 the next morning, something happened and that phone picked up either the tower signal or somebody's Wi-Fi, and all those messages flooded through, and then the phone died.
Okay, so here's my question. If the phone never moved and it never got any of those messages for 7-8 hours.
Right.
And again, the phone didn't move at 4:33. Why did all those messages hit all of a sudden?
I've had that living out here where I don't get nothing. And then all of us, and my phone hasn't moved. I'll have it on the charger or whatever, and all of a sudden I'll get messages because it's connected. I don't know what it is. Could be something with the tower signals.
But it was on the ground.
Right. Or it could have, or somebody could have started their Wi-Fi, booted it up, and all of a sudden it connected.
Now, whose Wi-Fi is going to be close enough for it to connect?
Depending on how good of a Wi-Fi they have. Could have been Ron Logan, could have been
But they're pretty much out in the country, so
yeah, but you got to remember though, the reason we lock our Wi-Fi here in the country is because if you don't lock it, people will steal it.
right.
And we're not close. I mean, the next house is across the field. And they will still steal your Wi-Fi if you don't lock it. So
Something's just fishy about that.
I don't know. I'm not hearing that, Margaret. Sorry.
What'd she say? Oh, wait a minute. Let me read.
The male sound says, guys, don't yell. I'm sure it sounds like down the hill, but it's cleared enough to hear don't yell. I'm just saying several were speaking in the same recorded situation. No, I'm not hearing that at all. In the original, I hear go down the hill.
Yeah.
And then once they put guys in it, then it was guys down the hill. I know what you're talking about, and I don't know if that was manipulated or what, but I am not hearing that on the official police snippets of the sound. Could be her last location for Apple Health. If your idol doesn't track, if I go on my Google history, it will show where I'm most active or landmarks. Okay. Where did it originate from? The Abby pic. I believe the Abby pic was taken on Snapchat. And that is why it was not found on LG's phone, because it's on the Snapchat server, not on her phone.
Right. That's like on Facebook Messenger.
Mhm.
If I take a picture on Facebook Messenger, it doesn't show up on my phone.
Right. You actually, when
have
you're
to save
using Snapchat, you actually would have to save that picture.
Yeah, same way on Messenger.
I believe someone screenshotted it and gave it to police, and they got the original through. Yes. Now, so when you do a Snapchat, you take a picture, you send it to all your friends that you have on your Snapchat. They can take a snippet or
Screenshot it.
or whatever, screenshot of it, and then police would have to look on Libby's phone. But with Snapchat, it's only there for so long. So what they would have actually had to do is go and get a court order for Snapchat to look on their server for that phone or for that picture.
Here's a question. On Snapchat, you can also do location.
Yes.
Did they do that?
I thought they said that they did.
They said the geofencing.
No. I have to find it in here where they're talking about that picture. Okay, when the video starts. And were you able to recover those pictures? Yes. And those pictures have GPS coordinates with them. Is that correct? The pictures don't, but there are, when Snapchat's being used, there are GPS locations when Snapchat's being used.
Yeah.
And so there are pictures taken throughout Snapchat, and you're able to get a GPS location through Snapchat of those pictures. Yes. And they show that the pictures were taken on the Monon High Bridge as well. Yes.
Yeah, Gibbo's right. Most phones update at night.
Right. All right, hang on. I'm missing something. All right.
You showed that one already.
Yep, but I missed something. Okay, so the Abby pic originated from Snapchat with the GPS location of the Monon High Bridge. Yep, showed that one. But Derek said first call rang, then subsequent calls defaulted to voicemail. Did it ring on his end and not their end? I don't know.
Well, but for it to default to voicemail, the phone would have been shut off or out of signal or out of range. No service, like.
Yeah. If someone don't believe that, next guess maybe, but said phone wasn't working once, and others say she had 3.
I've never heard she had 3 phones.
No. I think those are all rumors that you're hearing, Margaret. I screenshot occasionally some varied story situation. If all are true, more questions come together. Well, and I think what it's going to be is once we hear the final report in trial, it'll make more sense. If a stranger says they loaned Libby their phone, I assume they were at a scene because Rational says they had to say, "Where are you getting this from, Margaret?" This is all off. There's nothing of fact stating this. Libby did have her phone wiped. I think she borrowed a phone while someone looked at it or something. I can't remember.
She had Becky's phone.
She had Becky's phone, but that was the week before. As soon as her phone got wiped and fixed, she got it back, and that's the only phone she was using. Okay. Okay. She did, but I'm not sure she had it that day. I believe it was handed over later, a secret phone. I've not heard it was wiped after, but it was before. Right. It was a week before because she was having issues with her phone. Her Aunt Tara is the one that wiped it for her and restarted it.
And Abby's the one that had the secret phone.
Right. Yeah, that's unverified. We don't know anything about the phone that Abby had. Yeah, I have issues with that too. But that's just my opinion. Why would Liberty German have Julie Melvin's phone? No. Eric says, I live in county next to Delphi. There's more talk online than there is locally. I would agree with that. Gibbo says, I can only imagine the locals are sick of the circus. They have a memorial park for them, and it's beautiful.
Okay, well, I'm going to dodge out.
All right.
Keep an eye in the chat.
Okay, thank you. The air in Delphi is thick. You can feel it. Yep, I'm sure. I'm confused. I thought the geodata was out, but this isn't geodata. This is the information that Cecil received from dumping Liberty's phone. They're saying Brad isn't alibied for that whole time. Gibbo says it's out unless the defense can link what was found to relevance to the case. At the moment, it neither helps or hinders Alan's case. Yep. They wanted to bring him to our jail. Sheriff said no way. Yep, I remember that. That's what we're confused about too. And that's why McClellan was objecting. Yes, I have two, Crime Jester. Definitely had messages sent later than when, or delivered later than when they were actually sent. Let's see. I've always wondered about the audio because they told us what it said before we listened to it, so it's kind of hard to hear anything. They kept so much from the public. I could agree if it weren't only used on alternate wave when it's heard. Yeah, they are not. Yes, in this testimony, in Cecil's testimony, they were only talking about Apple data because when they did the phone dump, the health app that she had gave them information. Yep, towers could get overloaded at times. I wouldn't think so at that time of the night in Delphi, though. It's not that big. Yeah, it would be the least congested time during that time. But we do have to remember that that night it was going to be more congested because of all of the people out searching for the girls. You had so many cell phones in that area, it wasn't even funny. I'd be interesting to ask people around town if they experience delayed text messages on a regular basis. Let's see. Used to live in a basement flat and only got signal sometimes. Get nothing for hours, then suddenly a flurry of messages. Phone hadn't been moved. Exactly. That's how it is for us out in the country, too. Eric says that locals here don't talk about it. Online does the most, right? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they didn't say anything about the geofencing in here. No, Liberty German's phone data is going to come into the trial. The geofencing data just on the third party is out. Yeah. Any more question you guys have for me on that testimony? Oh, so Rosie's right across the street from the Cass County Jail. That should be convenient for them. How does geofencing not relate to the case? That's literally what it does if you circle the crime and the time it happened. What they're finding is that the geofencing will say you were in one location when you were actually in another. It's not specific enough. So, if you remember in the defense's interlocutory appeal, they said the geofencing showed them in the area, not necessarily in at the crime scene or on the bridge. And that is why the judge threw it out. Does anyone know where to find the standards of third-party evidence? I'll try to find it and do a live on it before the trial. So yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Remember, I thought I set up the live for tonight, but apparently it didn't go through. So I will be doing that right after this. Please join me at 8 p.m. Eastern. I am going to be talking about a new resource for web sleuths, police, and families of missing persons and unsolved murder cases. I can't wait to show it to you all and tell you about it. I think it's going to help us in some of these cases that we're following and in future cases. So thank you and have a good afternoon. Bye.